president has decided was in fact the case.
And these comments from the president coincide with a report by a top NATO and US military intelligence chief in Afghanistan, General Major Michael Flynn, who talks about intelligence on the ground being more akin to fortune-telling rather than spying.
Yes, and this is also a rather interesting situation here. Is somebody who's had the past 3 decades in military intelligence, who's hugely respected in the field. He's in charge of all military intelligence in Afghanistan, both for US forces and NATO forces generally, basically saying we just simply haven't got to grips with the environment in which we're working in Afghanistan. He says the problem is that all the focus is on those involved in the insurgency. It's all to do with trying to track down people who are making bombs and setting bombs and attacking troops. He says there's almost no attention being paid to the environment which is feeding that insurgency. He says until you can focus on that, you're really not going to be able to get to grips with that problem.
How have the American media reacted to this?
There hasn't been a great deal about it, interestingly. I think there's been such an obsession with, first of all, the Christmas Day bomb plots, also, of course, the bombing of the CIA base on the Afghan-Pakistan border, in which 7 US officials died, mostly with the CIA, and 1 Jordanian intelligence official, and what seems to have been a sort of disastrous intelligence failure there, because it was a double agent who eventually, as it's been revealed, was behind that bomb attack. That almost the criticism that there's been by General Flynn has sort of passed by almost unnoticed. It just goes to show exactly how much criticism there has been of the large numbers of failures in the past couple of years.
Richard Lister from Washington, thank you very much. Well, let's now talk to Vincent Canestraro, who's a former head of CIA counterterrorism and now retired. Welcome, Vincent.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. Now, can I first ask you what you make of Major General Michael Flynn's comments we just heard there about spying being more akin to fortune-telling at the moment?
Well, Michael Flynn is head of military intelligence, and I think his criticisms are directed against military intelligence support. And that's a more particular area because the intelligence community, say, comprised primarily of the Central Intelligence Agency, is in Afghanistan concentrated on Al-Qaeda and not on the insurgency per se. The 7 CIA officers who were killed at Khost, for example, were directed against identifying Al-Qaeda militants inside northern Pakistan along the border with Afghanistan, so they could direct drone attacks against them. They weren't there to support General Flynn in the military effort that was built up recently by President Obama. So I think it's a particular criticism on support to his military operations and not on the primary reason that the CIA is there and concentrating on Al-Qaeda.
How difficult is it to work informants and to get informants in that region and in Al-Qaeda?
Well, it's very difficult in any place getting access agents into Al-Qaeda. It's probably the most difficult intelligence operation facing counterterrorism operations. And I think in this last case, we saw an example of how CIA was depending on Jordanian intelligence who had identified a person who had been involved with Al-Qaeda activity, who had been turned by Jordanian intelligence and made him an informant used by CIA along with the Jordanian intelligence handler, directing the